And so, yeah, I always wanted to start a company, and going into Google, part of my thought process was, let me go and do a good job here. But part of it was, let me start something here, which is why I got involved with the mobile team. So even there, I, tried to start something up. But then lastly, it was kind of like find the network and maybe find the problem statement or opportunity to work on afterwards. Because if you're at one of these companies that is at the epicenter of many different things, you both are in enormous talent density. That's where there's certain companies where all the best people go to in certain moments of time. And then Silicon Valley really runs in little cliques or networks. And if you fall into one of those networks, you can basically work with those same people for the next 30 years in different formats, right? And you look at, for example, all the COOs across Silicon Valley for a period of time all came out of Google. It was like Cheryl at Facebook and Dennis Woodside at Dropbox and, Lexi at Gusto and Claire Hughes Johnson at Stripe. And I mean, literally many of the main COOs all came out of one company. And you see that over and over and over again where different generations of either founders, of investors, of operators all come from the same small subsets of networks. And then they help each other throughout their careers because they were kind of battle tested together. And so joining Google was really formative from that perspective. And one of the pieces of career advice that I'd give people is, especially early in your career, don't worry about the role, don't worry about the compensation, just go to the right company. And that will solidify your career for the next decade. And that's way more important than getting, a secondary role with a better role with better comp at a company that isn't going to matter as much.
I have a theory that the center of Silicon Valley now is some combination of the Collisons, the Altmans, yourself. Like there's some center orbit of people in Silicon Valley that like have this tightly integrated network of, investing together and deals and all that stuff. So no, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's definitely generational cohorts. And I think I actually, just for my own sake, made like a slide recently for myself, or like a spreadsheet, which is basically what do I think are the generational circles over the last few cycles and how are those shifting? And you could think of it by company. You could think of it by leaders that people look up to or founders people look up to. You can view it by investors. You can view it by founder networks. And so every 5 to 7 years, the network flips. And certain people remain relevant and other people flip over. And the question is, why do certain people have so much longevity? And it's very few people, if you actually think about it. Some platforms have longevity.
Sure.
But very few people are actually relevant over multiple cycles. And the question is, what's the common characteristic of those people?
And was there any takeaway of what was the common characteristic?
It's one of two things. They either have a platform company that continues to evolve in interesting ways, which in most companies in technology tend to stale out, or it's people who reinvent themselves, right? It's sort of like Sam doing Looped and then running YC and then doing OpenAI and that, and so he's reinvented himself over multiple cycles. Naval has done that, right? Early super angel, early into crypto, has done a bunch of AI stuff more recently. Like he's constantly reinventing himself. And so I think the people who focus on that reinvention, and often I think those people are technology driven, right? They care about the tech and therefore they follow what all the interesting technologists are focused on. And that tends to be what drives waves. And that's very different from the person who's just interested in it because they want to make money or because of some other factor, right? And so it tends to be people, I think, who are technology minded, and they tend to survive these multiple cycles because they follow the technology innovation and shifts and where the like really interesting builders working.